Hi, how are y'all doing? Hope everything's going well and you're getting towards, pretty far along in the semester, and hope that's going well for you, not only in this class, but in your other ones you have as well. In this little talk, I want to just talk about your project. You'll see uploaded on there on the assignments, the new business strategy project that you'll be doing from pretty much here on till the end of the semester, and what you'll be really working on. I think that hopefully you've seen that we built a lot of the kind of concepts and tools for developing strategy, especially with the book. You really see it really clearly on how a strategy is developed. And then we've talked a lot about different things in international and how to find things in about different countries and different ways to enter countries and all sorts of elements around that, and the entrepreneurial mindset, etc. And so now ideas, you put all that together and come up with a new business strategy for a new business or in another country. And I thought a lot about different ways to do this, but what I decided to do is pretty much give you a case, a scenario that you'll work on, so that everyone has the same one, and you don't have to spend a lot of time thinking of what to do, etc., but just how to apply those things that you've learned how to do. So if you call up that the new business strategy project assignment, we can kind of go through that a bit together, so we make sure we're all on the same page. And again, please, if you have any questions, let me know, and I'll be happy to answer them. As you see there, we're going to do a project on Bianchi wines, and so Bianchi wines is a fictitious company, although there are a lot of companies just like this, and they are a long-standing company that's family-owned business in Napa Valley, California, and they make wine. They've been making wine since the late 1800s, making them one of the oldest local families there, and they're still family-owned. So you see here a little bit of the history of the winery and what's going on there. So they have about 200 acres planted now, and they've just bought some additional land, you'll see. But basically 200 acres, you'll see at the bottom how much that produces. It produces a lot of wine. So they've got it's a pretty big one, it's not a gigantic winery, but it's certainly significant in terms of what they are able to produce. So the case is that there is the fifth generation Bianchi named Rosa Bianchi, and she's the head winemaker and also part of the family group that decides on the way forward. So she basically, if they've done very well, their wines are very well accepted. They've won lots of awards. They've done, had a great track record of wine. They're kind of high priced, not the super high price, but they're certainly not the $10 ones that I get at Total Wine, but they're up there. So they've done well, and they're profitable, and they're expanding, and it's a good business. So you think, why not leave it alone? Well, Rosa, she with her education and the people she knows and the friends she talks about and the ways, always trying to look ahead, she's decided that it'd be worthwhile to look into how they could expand to another country. And primarily what she wants to do is think about, after talking over, she'd like to have a bottling facility there and a distribution facility. So basically, she would like to ship the wines in barrels to this other country, some way for them to bottle it, and then a distribution network. It could be her own. They could buy it. They could incorporate. They could develop local. They could do a joint venture with someone. They could do any number of ways. That's her basic concept, is to see how that would go in the beginning. So that's really the case. If you look at that, and you see some additional details there, they'd like to do it in that form and not sell a bottle or not have a wine making production. They'll make the wine where they are and send the barrels there and have it open the barrels and bottle it there according to local standards and local regulations, which are always going to be something to deal with. A lot of companies do just send the bottles, but they'd rather see if they can do a physical bottling facility and a network of distribution. Either, again, it could be online, it could be to restaurants, individuals, wine shops, etc. That's up for you to think about, depending on the country you choose. They have a lot of wines available. I listed them there, and they're expensive. They're not the super high end, expensive. But if they're sold normally in restaurants, they be 70% markup. One thing I'll put in the thing too is you have to just note that winemakers usually make about a 50% gross margin. So that means if they sell a wine for $40, about 20 of that is, the 20 is like the cost, and a 20% is available for profits, for salaries, for other things. So that's about what you work with. It's a pretty big margin if you're successful, especially at the higher end in prices. But you'll see that there. And also, please do look up the wine industry in the country you choose, and also in general, because it's interesting, and that's how you do things like this. So anyway, they bought a new patch of 35 acres, and she's thinking, in addition to 200 they have, that's the acreage I'd like to see. What can we do with that acreage, in an offshore market? And after talking it over with her friends and everything, she's picked out these countries, 7 countries, and you see them listed there: Ireland, Portugal, Russia, Italy, Brazil, Chile, and Argentina. So your deal here is you have the company, you have the case, and you have to select one of these countries for your creation of this new business in that country. So why you choose one, it's up to you. You can use the World Bank data to see if anyone hits you better, but maybe you just have an affinity towards one, or you think there's a natural affinity for this kind of business for one, or whatever, or you just are interested in exploring that country more. That's fine, up to you. So whatever, you have the company, and then you are free to pick whichever one of those 7 countries you want. And then from there, you follow exactly the slides that I'm providing for you, so on how to do projects. So you have the format, you have but then you have to do the work to put it all into shape. But I think that should be, you won't be distracted by a lot of things that are problematic. Really, is coming up with the ideas and the formats, etc. You have that. So your real role is to logically plan out what you would do, use what you know, what you've learned, and also the assessment of one of these countries, and see how you can make a case for which of the countries, and a compelling case that would convince her colleagues, her family member colleagues around the table, that they should do this expansion. Up to now, they've only ever worked in the U.S. You see there how many, you might wonder, well, how much is a barrel of wine? A barrel of wine is 300 bottles, and they have 35 acres that they want to allocate towards this. And you make about 10 tons of grapes per acre. I mean, that's on the high side, but let's just say 10 tons of grapes per acre, and that makes about 7,200 bottles per acre. And so you can kind of calculate how many barrels we're talking about when you do that. And then there's some interesting information on the Napa Valley, which you could think about as part of your marketing and packaging and branding elements. It's quite unique. Everybody's heard of Napa Valley, but it actually produces a very tiny amount of the world's wine. It's just that it's a very unique place, and the climate there is rarely found in the world, and so it just produces a type of product that's unbeatable, and that's why it's so famous. Even though it only produces 0.4% of the world's wine production, everybody knows about Napa Valley. So then you'll see on the bottom the due dates. Well, here's what you're going to do. All the slides each time. So on March 29th, the first draft of your slides are due. Do all the slides and send them to me by March 29th. I will review them, edit them, make suggestions, comments, etc., and send them back to you. And then you'll do the revised set on April 5th. That means I'll have to do it quickly, but I will. Even though you're 60-something of you in this class, I'll get them back to you fast, so that you have time to make those revisions and come back. Of course, and then I'll do it again for the April 12th, the final presentation. I'm pretty sure by the final one you'll be good, because I do spend a lot of time working on these. But your role is to do as best you can each time, because and also the other thing is, if I make a suggestion or recommendation or change in your first draft, I don't want to see it happen again in the second draft. That's it happens a lot when you do these kind of things, and it's not good, because it takes a lot of time to do these, and a lot of time on your side and my side. And let's make them as professionally we can, as smoothly as possible, and so we'll go from that. Little things, just to let you know ahead of time. Your fonts should be the same. Your margins should be the same. Your formatting should look good. You should spell it correctly. You should do all these things. Otherwise you find me over and over again clicking on things and saying, why did you have this margin here and this one here? Why do you use different font size or different anything on different pages? Remember, you're trying to appeal to a professional group of people, and it has to look really good. If it doesn't look good, it gets rejected for the looks rather than the content. So I'm a little picky in the beginning, you'll see, but try to do that in the beginning. Make it as clean as possible you can. Don't use all kinds of different fonts and colors and all kinds of stuff that are clashing or weird. Okay, So I think that's it for that. I think you'll be cooking on that after you do your test 2 on the 22nd. That'll give you time to get this going. But I really would suggest you start looking at it whenever you can. Keep it in the back of your mind. Just check out the World Bank site. Do all you can to kind of get yourself ready to do this, because it'll be a bit of a push once you get in there. Even though you do have the format, etc., you'll find that when you do the business system analysis, it doesn't take 5 minutes. It takes a few minutes. So give it this time. Give it its worth. I guarantee you, if you're able to do this, it'll come in very handy in your future career, because this is really important to be able to do this, be able to take a situation, issue, and make it into a realistic and high quality and compelling case. Okay? So hope that makes sense, and please do let me know if you have any questions or doubts on this. All right? Thanks a lot.